We just landed in Hanoi in Vietnam, soaking it all in already, and we're on our way from the airport to our hotel. There are 9 of us total on this trip. Myself, my brother Sean, Frankie and his brother Sam, Jacob and Jennifer, Tiffany and Philip, and Jesse. Already in the streets of Hanoi, and it is a complete culture shock. Motorcycles going every which way, lots of noise and construction, a lot going on. Our first night in Hanoi, and we're off to a street foodie tour led by our tour guide Lemon. We walk the streets of Hanoi Beer Corner, even though it's rainy, and try to cross the street while avoiding motorcyclists. Most important thing we have to learn first is how to say cheers in Vietnamese.
Một, hai, ba, rổ. Hai, ba, rổ. Hai, ba, rổ. Hai, ba, uống. Hai, ba, uống. Yes, it's now. Một, hai, ba is mean 1, 2, 3. Okay? Rổ is mean cheer. And uống is mean drink. We mix rice and water together. It becomes the liquid of rice. And we steam here, not fry on the oil, so very fresh and healthy. We steam very thin like that, about 15 seconds. So after we string like that to roll and take it out. And the final step, we put some mushroom and pork inside the cake.
This entire catfish dish was only $8 per person.
Noodles, green onions, cilantro. Finished product of the catfish. And some fish sauce on top.
The next morning, we woke up bright and early and got on our cruise to the Halong Bay, where we spent 2 days and 1 night on these junk ships. We were greeted onto the junk ship in an epic way by way of falling rose petals. The Halong Bay is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And even though it was sprinkling and chilly and foggy and all that when we went, it was still a sight to behold. I mean, it looks like a scene straight out of a movie. Even with all the junk ships cruising around the bay, it was still a beautiful sight to see. For how short our cruise was, it was 2 days and 1 night, our itinerary was pretty packed. At night, we learned how to make traditional egg rolls, while dancing, and we got real competitive with the kids. When we arrived at the Mekong Delta, we hopped aboard these tiny timber motorboats. It was hot and humid, the waters were murky, the engine was loud. But what I most enjoyed was crossing paths with this stranger, this old lady, using gestures and broken English to communicate with her, and just laughing. This is kind of a glimpse into the past and the floating markets of Kairong, where vendors try to sell you fruits and vegetables and noodles from boat to boat. On one of our pit stops, as we were biking along the rural area of the Mekong Delta, we stopped under this bridge and ordered some skewers for snacks, and they were selling produce under the bridge like it was no big deal. Here we are, another pit stop on the side of the road while biking, getting fresh pressed sugarcane drink. It was delicious in the heat. I've been on ferry rides before, but this one was a little bit different. The engines were loud, there were tons of people on a little ferry boat, and just seeing the delta around us was a lot to take in. We even went off the unbeaten path through a forest full of coconut trees to get to a rice noodle plantation. But don't be fooled, there were a ton of mosquitoes here and a lot of DEET being sprayed. Trust me, even though these noodles look easy to catch, we got a chance to try it out, and let me tell you, it is not easy. We even got to visit a small family-owned cacao farm, and we got a taste of their ice-cold cacao drinks in the hot, humid weather, as well as cacao nibs. My favorite part was that there was Wi-Fi outside. Something that always interests me about other countries and cultures is how they embrace people with disabilities and integrate them into their workforce. In Vietnam, this is one of the production workshops where people with disabilities create artwork to sell to tourists and the general public. They also have a donation box where people can also make a monetary contribution. This is a place that Obama visited on his trip to Vietnam. In Saigon, we did a really cool motorcycle foodie tour where all our drivers were females to give them jobs, but they came with security to keep them safe. On our first stop in our Saigon food tour, our tour guide introduced us to traditional beef noodle soup, not to be confused with pho. Here it is, and I like how we got to try something traditional but different. One of my favorite pit stops in Saigon was this outdoor traditional Vietnamese barbecue. We grilled our own meat, including goat, and drank cold Saigon beer.
One standing.
On our last night in Vietnam, we walked along the city square to take it all in one last time. And in the distance, there is the statue and building of Ho Chi Minh. And what I've learned in my few days in Vietnam is even though the people have been through a lot historically, that has also made them extremely hospitable and hardworking and kind. Vietnam is a country with great contrasts. There is the French and also traditional Vietnamese architecture, as well as a quiet countryside and the hustle bustle of the city. Till next time, Vietnam. Thanks for watching my video. Subscribe to follow along.